Welcome back to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to 5 Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. Today, I want to talk on the topic change your philosophy, change your life. So, let me ask you, what is your philosophy in life? I was recently finished reading, I should say, Jim Rohn's book called How to Have Your Best Year Ever. And in Jim's book, he lists 5 areas to improve your life to have your best year ever. And the very first one he started talking about was your philosophy in life. And it's a very big one because when you change the way you think, when you change the way you think about things, the things you think of will change. That is my most famous quote. And I got that from Dr. Dyer. And I've lived my life and coached my clients based on this same concept. So here's a big word now that's on top of that, and that is your philosophy in life. It encompasses your beliefs, the things you believe should happen, and the things you believe you shouldn't happen, and what people should do and what they shouldn't do. So, yes, so we are going to talk today that if you change your philosophy, you will change your life. So let's dissect your philosophy of life. One of the things that the first thing you need to look at regarding your philosophy of life is if you play the blame game. I learned a long time ago, even before I became a life coach, that when you blame people, you give them the power over you, right? If you keep saying that I am nowhere or I am nothing because of what someone did to me, then you give them all your power. You're saying that you are incapable of doing something with your life because of what someone has done to you. And that is really not true, right? You are in control. So, are you blaming your circumstances, your job, your spouse, or even your kids for your struggles? Let's say you have no money in the bank, no money in your pocket. Your kids don't respect you. Your marriage is on the brink of collapse. Who are you blaming? Gotta look in the mirror because even though these things might be happening, you can't blame them. You can't say that I have no money in the bank because of this or that, or my spouse is not doing this or that, and that's why I'm here. That might be the circumstances, but you could always do something about it. But if you play the blame game, you are not alone. Most people in these situations point the finger outward. They blame where they live, where they work, what their spouse isn't doing, how ungrateful their kids are. There's one time people were talking about, I was born on the other side of the tracks. I was born the wrong color. But here's the hard truth. They rarely look inward. They rarely examine their philosophy in life. So set your sail right. Change your philosophy. And this is the sail of a sailboat, not the sail of you selling hamburgers or something, right? Set your sail right, because when you set your sail right, it determines the direction that your ship is going to go in. It determines what the wind is going to pick up, how the universe is going to help you get where you're going, because you set your sail right. You set your intention in life. And when you set your intention, the universe conspires to help you get there. Your philosophy is your guiding principle. It shapes your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your results. Here's a profound truth. Failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. It is as simple as an apple a day, keeping the doctor away. Hey, there's truth to that. It's not just a fable, but simplicity doesn't mean ease. Success requires discipline and effort. So the first thing you got to do to change your philosophy in life is change your attitude. You know, A long time ago, I heard this statement. I think it was, back in the 80s or something, that your attitude determines your altitude. You know, these people at your job that have a really bad, stinking attitude, where do they go? They go nowhere. They get no promotions. They don't do anything. They don't get anywhere because people look at them and say their attitude stinks, right? So, how you feel shapes everything. If you got a bad attitude, is because you feel that somebody owes you something or somebody's not doing something and they're not doing it and I'm not doing it, that kind of thing. So your attitude determines how you approach life. Ask yourself this question. How do you feel about your past? How do you feel about yourself? Right? Very important questions. Who are you blaming? Right? How you feel about yourself? When you look in the mirror, do you think that you're happy with where you are? You're confident, you've got self-worth? If you don't, it's your attitude. Understanding your self-worth is key. When you value yourself, you begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles. Number 2 is education. Change begins with learning. Knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power when you use it. So going and getting a whole bunch of education and not, putting it into action is a waste of education. But everything starts with knowledge. Everything starts with learning. You got to read the books, right? So life doesn't start with inspiration, it starts with perspiration. It starts with action. For example, think about something as simple as walking around the block, right? You say to yourself, you should walk. You say, you could walk, but you don't walk. You find an excuse. When you neglect the small things, then the big problems pile up. You should, you could, you don't. Right? So, philosophy in life. Number 3 is take action. God has a principle. If you plant the seed, I would make the tree. The tree doesn't grow unless you plant the seed. Here is the catch. You have to plant the seed first. Even Jesus taught this through action. When the disciples couldn't pay their taxes, Jesus told Peter, go fishing. And in the mouth of the first fish that Peter caught, he found the money he needed to pay. But if Peter didn't go fishing, if he didn't go and throw the line in the sea, he wouldn't have caught the fish. So this was a miracle, but what made it possible? Action. If you have the ability to act but don't, that is where the real problem begins. Take action on neglect. Do what you can. Do the best you can, right? Action. Tony Robbins always would say, don't just take action, but take massive action because massive action moves the needle. But we're just talking about doing something here, just taking some action, right? Listen to my episode on atomic habits, small incremental steps, but you're doing something, right? Number 4 is results. Measure your efforts. What are your results? If you're not seeing results, it's time to examine your effort. No results, no effort. Let your results teach you whether you're making progress, whether your philosophy in life is changing. Think of it like as life school. You can't stay in the fourth grade forever. Success is a numbers game. If you're not progressing, you need to make some adjustments. Number 5 is your lifestyle. Design your future. If you wish to be wealthy, study wealth. If you wish to be happy, study happiness. Now, you guys might not think that you can study happiness, but yes, you definitely can because happiness is a choice. The people that are happy choose certain things to do to make them happy. And I will tell you, it circles back to their philosophy in life, how they think about things, right? It circles right back, right? Happiness isn't an accident. It is something you design. It's the result of aligning your philosophy, your attitude, your education, and actions with your goals. You got to be in alignment. And you know something? When you're out of alignment, your body tells you. You feel the knots in your stomach. You feel out of whack, right? So always look through your body to respond to what's going on in life because it tells you. You just got to pay attention. So, in closing, your philosophy is the foundation of your life. Change it and everything else follows. Stop pointing fingers. Stop making excuses. Instead, take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for your philosophy, and you'll begin to see transformation in your life, in your relationships, and in your results. So, what will you do differently today to change your tomorrow? I mean, I don't make these episodes just so that you can hear it in through one ear and go through the next. I want to start your thinking. I want you to have inspiration as I'm talking and something pops into your mind. So, what is it that you're going to do to change your philosophy? I just talked about the blame game and I talked about your attitude and I talk about effort and things like that. So, there's got to be something in there that you can fit into and start making a change. So, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of 5 Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. Today, we're talking about philosophy. I want you to change your philosophy in life. I want you to change the way you think about things, and you will see the things you think about will change, and it will change for the better. All right, listen, I want you to like, comment, and share. This work that I'm doing is to inspire millions of you. So if you come across it, I want you to share it. So thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.